see. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is a call with Robin Sachs, confidence and mindfulness coach, and myself, Lindsay House, accountability coach. And we're coming at you today to do this free accountability coaching as an idea that we want to demonstrate what coaching feels like, that it's not intimidating. It's a great place to come in, get out with just little tidbits of advice, knowledge for you for the day, for the week. And we're taking questions. So if you never can come live, that's not a problem. Just submit your questions, or you can come on live and we'll chit chat about different areas of life and what we can either celebrate together or what's holding us back. So Rosemary, you are our first question of today. You got to us first. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you, and you can kind of address who you would like to answer your question.
Okay, so we did a call with Robin maybe 2 months ago.
I think so.
So at that call, I agreed to an experiment. And the experiment was that for 2 weeks, I was going to not say, I'll try to do whatever we were trying. And there was another word, of course, it's stumping me right now what the other word was. But I was going to be more proactive. And instead of saying, yeah, I'll try, I would say, I'll do it, or something like that. Jan, do you remember the other word? I wrote you asked me and I wrote you what it was. Anyway, I was pretty successful for the time period. I only caught myself twice trying to say that, and it's like, no, I'm not going to say that word. But I don't think it made any life difference whatsoever. I think it's all just a bunch of semantics, and nothing has affected my life by doing that. I wrote Lindsay this morning. She asked me a question. She showed me how she was tracking, some food, and I said, you motivated me, and I started to write, I'll try to do the same thing for the next month. And I caught myself writing it, and I changed it and said, I'll do that. But yet I still in my brain think it's just a bunch of semantics, and it's not a life-changing, habit-altering thing. Any comments? What other people have observed, or?
Oh, okay, can I say? Okay. We had a group chat the other day, and people were jumping in, and we were talking and stuff, and it was really great. And Jan used one word, alone, because I have been obsessed with food at night, not in the daytime, not any other time, but at night, obsessed. And she said, Kathy, I have never seen you obsessed with food when we're together, ever, never in your whole life. And then she goes, I think you're alone. So pondering that word, that one little word, made I don't know, everything kind of shifted in my core. I mean, it felt different. It felt like I was going into the battle with a shield and with armor. And I mean, it was remarkable. Whether or not it continues, but I think there is power in one word. And sometimes you may not have the right word yet. Okay. It may be a different word than that, but I think it can be something as small as one word that just makes your brain click into another track.
Oh my God, Charlie has a pillow behind you.
I know.
Okay.
Having a good time.
Sorry, I didn't know if he was allowed that.
She's allowed. It's hers.
Okay.
Yeah, so I love it. And Rosemary, absolutely. Thanks for your honesty. And you're 100% correct. It is semantics. Just like Kathy, you're 100% correct. It is semantics. And sometimes those semantics are game changers. And so it's not an all or nothing. And for something like try, and thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing it. Notice I didn't say thank you for trying that. Thank you for doing it. One of the things is, sometimes we'll use the word do instead of try, but we still will kind of not just do everything. That idea of try for a lot of people is kind of an excuse or an out. I'll try that, but then if I don't do it, I didn't commit to it. So it's okay. And so getting in the habit of saying I will do is a form of commitment. So for a lot of people, that's key, because if I can't say the word try, not only do I have to either commit to I will do, which for some people that commitment is the thing they need to take action, or equally as important is I'm allowed to say, if I can't say I'll try, I also have to say I'm not going to do that. So the idea is I have to commit one way or the other, and that promotes things like accountability. That promotes, if I'm struggling with something, changing that one semantic could sometimes make a huge impact. And so I love the experiment, Rosemary, phenomenal. And you made a great point, just as Kathy did, is, interesting, because you also keep saying, now I'm aware of it constantly. And awareness is key, because there might be some times when I do want to do or not do something and try comes out and I'm like, no, actually, in this instance, I'm not going to try. I'm going to either do or not do. If I'm not aware of that, I may keep trying and committing to things that I don't want to do. Because when we don't really want to do something, when we want to say no sometimes, but we don't want to make someone else feel bad, what do we say?
I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll try, even though we know we're saying no, we're not going to do it. So I love the awareness. I love the honesty that you got it. For you, Rosemary, that might not make a big difference, but it's the commitment factor that those words create. And Kathy, for you, that one word, sometimes it hits you on the side of the head and you're almost like, wait a minute, that just changed everything. Why didn't someone just say that word or say it that way? And, that's why it's so key. When we're talking about any kind of personal development type, anything, there's nothing really new. It's like the same 12 things that have been talked about for hundreds of years, thousands of years. None of us are talking about anything new. However, different people say things differently. They might have a different tone of voice. They might use different words. They might give you different analogies or be able to speak to you in a different way, where you might have heard something dozens of times and someone says it a little differently and you go, oh, I get it. They may not be saying anything differently than a dozen other people have said before, but they said it a little differently in a way that it made sense to you at that moment. And that's when it clicks. And so, it's why I'm a huge fan of, we all have maybe people we follow or people we are in communities with, or people on social media that we love to chime into because they speak our language, so to speak. I'm a big fan of find those people, and you might have 3 or 4 or 5 of them. One of them might be someone who helps with things like food and exercise that speaks that language. Some might be, hey, this negative self-talk I've got to figure out. That might be a different person. It might be, I have to have these challenging conversations all the time with people, right, in life or at work or some. That might be another person. So kind of think of it as almost like your little board of directors that you can put together, and you can go get your advisors anytime you need, who speak those languages for you. And it's a matter of words, different words sometimes, which is pretty cool when you think about it. Yeah, Kathy.
And Jan came up with the other word. Did you see? It was should.
Yeah,
Good.
that was awesome. Do you know what comes to mind when you were saying what you were saying, Robin, is parents saying something and then somebody other than parents saying the exact same thing, and the kid says, yeah. You're going, I've been saying that. But
I told you that 20 times.
But that's why it's important to have other community, other people, other in your kids' lives, in your life, but in children's lives. I think of that was huge. Like grandparents saying the same thing, aunts and uncles saying the same thing, friends that are on board and just support what you're saying, but the kid doesn't hear you say it.
And that happens in the professional world too. I advise my clients on something and they hear it, and then another professional says the same thing, and it has all this credibility then,
right?
Because it's validated or whatever.
Yes.
And lastly, about the try and should, I will say, well, I don't think it made any difference in my life, other than the fact that I am still aware of it. Maybe I have zero guilt if I didn't do it either.
Valid. And you know what, that awareness also, think about it, because even though when we talk about, personal development type stuff, it's not just about us, right? We're surrounded by people all the time. That awareness alone, may all of a sudden have you catch somebody else that you know who is in a cycle of, I'll try that, I'll try that. And at some point you can go, no, this is the problem. You say you're going to try it or you should do it, but then you never do it. I have a challenge for you. You're not allowed to say try anymore. I want you to say I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So you can now take that tool, so to speak, and offer it to someone else when it might be of benefit to them. So now you've just become the coach because you learned that and went, oh, I can see the difference, even though I'm okay with the difference. It's not something for me, but ooh, I'm going to catch people doing that sometimes. And now I can be someone that can step in and maybe offer them something to help them hold themselves more accountable, because that's what it's all about, the commitment and being personally accountable, right? I can give you all the information. I can't do it for you. At some point, you got to pick it up and go do it, right? So try or do it or don't do it. That ultimately is your choice or decision. But you might be able to be that motivator sometimes for someone who needs it. Pretty cool.
All right, Robin, I have a question for you. Let's go this route.
Yes, ma'am.
Rosemary's your client. You two are having
Yes.
this conversation in a session together. And Rosemary's saying, I'm using the tactics, I'm not doing it. Like, where would you start to angle the next part of that chat together?
Yeah. And you know what, Lindsay? It's a great question, because sometimes, again, it's everyone doesn't have to do everything because everyone doesn't need everything. And so sometimes if something comes up and it's like, let's try this, and then you actually go and do it and you come back and say, no, that's not something I need, or that's not something that is, it's okay to just, I'm just going to say, drop it and remind you that you now have a tool in your toolbox that, one, if you catch yourself at some point trying when you should be doing or not doing, now you have that awareness of, okay, I need to make a commitment one way or the other here, right? And I know Rosemary's got to wait. Okay, we'll pretend we're talking. Okay, so what I would say to Rosemary on a coaching call.
We're not clients too now.
Oh, so yeah, so sometimes it's okay to go, checked off the list. It's in the toolbox. You know how to use it for yourself. When and if that comes up, you also know how to use it for other people. So you can be that leader, coach, motivator, positive impact person, whatever that is. And now let's actually move on to the next thing. What else? So if that's not something we need to continue with, what's next? Because let's get there. Yeah.
Yeah, to not like
and
quit beating down the same door if it's not working. Let's move on. Yes.
You got it. You know, and from a coaching standpoint too, and Lindsay, I'll take the question back to you as well here is, you know, that's something in coaching sometimes where even if something, not that this was the case with Rosemary, because it was, hey, I took it, I tried it, awesome, this is cool, here's what we're going to take away from this. And now it's sitting in the toolbox. If you need it or someone else needs it, great, let's move on. Sometimes, especially as a coach, and even if you're not a coach, you've probably had these experiences with a friend or a family member or a coworker or something, where sometimes you can keep having the same conversation that makes perfect sense, and you realize at some point someone's not ready to do that, and that's okay too. And that's a great place to go, we're going to table this right now, because we either don't need it right now, it's not going to fit right now, it's a great thing that one day this is going to be something that we're going to come back to, but sometimes we're not ready to do something, right? Or hear something, and that's okay too. And I think that's a huge role of a coach, is to know not just when to keep talking, but when to stop talking and move on to something else. Mm-hmm. And that's tough to do sometimes, right? But that's a big component of this as well. And Lindsay, as a coach and accountability partner yourself, how do you look at that when you've got someone that you get to that point where it's, I know this is beneficial for you in your situation, but you're not seeing that yet, and that's okay, and you got to pull back. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So, and I feel like, Rosemary, you do see where I'm about to go with this. Like, I feel like you do see it. It would be like diving back into that. Why do I actually care? You know, and if we take the walking example of trying to get on the treadmill for 10 minutes a day, it's back to the, the why do I care? Because I feel like you do a really good job of if you have a trip planned, if you have something that you're like, I want to love this trip with my friends, I want to go explore Chicago, abroad, wherever. And so I always feel like getting back down to the why, but I'm going to flip this back to you, Robin. It's like once the why is reestablished, then what's the next question? You know, like if we have a strong why and the action still isn't following, and this, we all do this as human beings.
That's
I'm
me
talking
right
about all
now.
of us.
I have whys and I'm not exercising, and I think it's some back discomfort and it's just not fun, and I'm not necessarily pushing through it. Yet I have the same whys. I know the more I do it, the more I'll feel better, you know.
Mhm.
But lately I'm just kind of like not really following through.
Yeah. And you're not alone. Welcome to being human. And I say that partly sarcastically, partly realistically, because, you know, and this is where I'm going to bring that should word in here. Part of the reason that I'm not a fan of should is because should only implies one thing. There's something I know I need to do and I'm not doing it. And there is nothing positive that's going to come out of that. Not a positive thought, not a positive feel, not a positive anything. That's just going to get in my head and go, you're failing, you're failing, you're failing. You're not doing this. Boy, you're bad at this. That's what should does. There's nothing else that word implies. And so that's why I'm not a fan of that word. And Rosemary, I thank you for bringing some of your stuff out for us to play with here, because it is so human. So, you know, my first thing as a coach, these are the places I go. And this is also how I coach myself, because keep in mind, coaches are human and we're no different than any of the stuff that anyone else that we're talking to is going through. Part of, I think, being a good coach is being able to do things and go, hey, this may help, this may not. Let's do some things. Let's shift. Let's look, because ideally what works for me might not work for you. And my goal isn't to give you answers. My goal as a coach is to help you find the answers that work for you. And that's why a good coach, in my opinion, it's not about telling you what to do. It's about kind of pointing and aiming you, keeping you motivated. And if you're on a path and it's not necessarily the thing that's working in the moment, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's find something, one thing that will help you start walking in that direction, so to speak. There might be 50 things we end up with.
Yeah, and I figured it out. I mean, I do it when I go to physical therapy once or twice a week. They put me on the treadmill and I do it. And I do it when I hire my personal trainer to make me do it. But then I'll be walking with my trainer and she'll say, tell me about how much you exercised this week. And I'll say, well, I went to therapy.
Right. And so part of it is accountability, right? Oftentimes the reason we have a physical therapist, the reason we get a trainer, the reason we have a coach or an accountability partner of some kind is because I'm not good at it. I'm not able to, I'm not wanting to. It doesn't matter enough for me to hold myself accountable. Right. I mean, that's the reason we bring in accountability partners of other kinds, because we tend to be much more accountable to other people than we are to ourselves.
Yep.
Right. That's sort of the foundation of human being, right? For most people, right? It's easier to tell someone I need to do something and have them hold me accountable than me having to do it. So that's number one. That's very honest. So one thing is, hey, if you're not someone that holds yourself accountable, let's set up some other people who can keep you accountable. And maybe that is, I didn't exercise 5 days this week, but I did exercise twice. The fact that it was with the physical therapist doesn't matter. I've checked it off twice. I'm going to look at that as a celebration. I'm going to celebrate that small win. Because if I wasn't going to them, I would have done it 0 times. So we often look at what we're not doing or what we could do better. I'm a big fan of going, okay, but stop. Are you doing anything? The answer is yes. Then we're going to celebrate that, because you could be doing nothing. So doing something is better than doing nothing. There are different ways to be held accountable. And I have a client right now who literally, we have turned her little Google, her notifications on her phone, literally into this brilliant accountability partner for her, because she always has her phone. She's always got it with her. And there are things that she's wanted to do, some very basic things, but if there's something that isn't reminding her to do it, it's going to go by the wayside. And that's valid. That's real. Because the things that we often need to do or want to do or should do, they're not difficult. They're incredibly easy. What's difficult is reminding ourselves to do them and then just doing them. That's the part that gets difficult. So what we did is we literally set up 3 notifications that come up a day. One of them pops up every 2 hours on her phone. One of them pops up one a day. And one of them, I don't remember how she had it set up. But because Pavlov's dog, the second the phone dings, what does she do? She looks. And now she has an accountability partner that literally pops up and says, go drink a couple sips of water. And she goes, oh, that's right. Okay. And then she goes back to what she's doing. Or every 3 hours, click, get up and move. Oh yeah, I've been sitting at my computer for 3 hours doing this. Okay, I got to click that off. So let me get up. And she goes out and takes her dog for a quick walk up and down the block, comes back and continues working. Those little tiny things done consistently have a huge impact. So if I think of, for example, exercises, I have to go for a half-hour walk, or I have to attend a cardio class, or drive to a gym, or, do a yoga video, or whatever it is. If I'm not in a mood to take 40 minutes to do something, I'm not going to do it. It's the time. It's not always the event. So, for example, if I'm not big on holding myself accountable for exercise, I literally have a list, and I do personally, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, of exercises I can do in 1 minute. Because one of the things on my to-dos every day that I have for my personal accountability, I have exercise. It's literally one of the things up here I have to check off, exercise. And some days I go out for a nice long walk. Some days I put on a yoga video and I do like a half hour of that. And some days I get to the end of the day and I'm like, I've done nothing and I really don't care. But then I look at that thing and I'm like, but I want to color that little dot in. Or I want to click the button that says done. But I'm not going to, at that point, take a half hour or an hour to go do something. I know that. So I make it so simple that I can't not do it. So my list of 100 things, and again, or 1 minute things, I can do a 1 minute plank and check it off. I can do 50 jumping jacks and I can jump it off, right? I have several things that to me is doing something instead of nothing. And again, if I do a 1 minute plank for the next 30 days and I do nothing else, by the end of 30 days, I am so much stronger and healthier than I was 30 days ago by taking 1 minute a day. So I would start by going by something is better than nothing, even if it's 1 minute. And that's literally it. And it's amazing. Once we get started with something, often we realize we do much more, which is the cool thing. And if you didn't, you checked it off, and that's okay too. So I think the big picture here is flex and adjust and find what works for you. To your point, Rosemary, there are things that, boy, doing this causes discomfort. Okay, then that's not going to be something I do. I'm going to go find things that I can do that don't cause discomfort, or I don't like it because it's not fun. All right, well, let's find you something that actually is fun, and that's what we're going to do instead. So again, instead of thinking about what I don't like about it, I want to go find things that I do enjoy about some of these things. Those are the things that are going to go on my list or on my little thing to click up and go, hey, go do this. Oh yeah, that's right.
Great advice.
So
it's making me think of, and then Jan has a question, but Rosemary, the push-up challenge or the plank challenge, I feel like we need to get one of those things rocking and rolling again, because it's that little ripple, that instigator of it, and that those do feel good to you. So
that meet your own goal.
Right.
Our daily challenge. Yeah.
Yep. Would be a good thing to reinstigate. Yes. Jan, I feel like you had hands up there for a minute. Did you lose your train of thought?
No, I added something to it, talking about, I set alarms throughout the day. I take medication at different times. But I have gotten to where when the alarm goes off, oh, I have to turn off the alarm. And I still sit there because the whole reason was, oh, you got to shut it off. You know, it's like, no, when the alarm goes off, you have to stand up and do it. But, you know, I needed my husband to, don't just shut it off, get up and go do it. Or, you know, make it, maybe I need to make it farther away from me so that I have to get up to shut it off. So, you know, and just in talking, I thought of that. I need to leave it a little farther away so I can't just push the button off.
That's a great way. Again, those little shifts, do it a little differently than you normally do it. And immediately it gets you off of autopilot. And that's
Right.
the key, because it's that autopilot that kicks in and I don't even think about it. I click it off or I do something and I just keep going.
Exactly.
If you take it and do it a little bit differently, autopilot goes out of the mix and now your brain has to pay attention. And all of a sudden you're aware, you're present in the moment. Now I'm in a place of choice and I can think, I can look. That's exactly the key, Jen. It's those little tiny differences that kick our brain out of autopilot, because autopilot is exactly that. I don't have to think. I'm not thinking, I'm not present, I'm not aware. And so I'm not in a place of choice.
Yes.
It's just gonna happen.
And then
I'm going to
I
add
actually
on to
get-
that. Oops, go. Sorry.
Oh, go, Lindsay.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking for anybody else who is going to tune in and listen to this, there's been a lot of studies done where, like, if you work in an office, you move the candy bowl even across the room, it reduces accidental candy grabs by a certain percentage. And that's what you're talking about, Robin. It is, whether that's environmental things that we needed to turn off the autopilot or whether it's a habit. But I feel like anybody listening, you can take this into a fitness. If you put your running shoes that much closer, again, it can be food that much further away. Like smallest changes like that, they increase your chances of success, not daily, but more success than what you would have had. And I totally cut you off, Jan. I'm sorry.
Nope, that was okay. I was just going to say this alarm for taking medication, I get mad at myself because if I don't, I know that I didn't take it because it has a very bad effect on me. So I get mad. How could I not have done it when I know it does that? So then I'm angry at myself. So how do I talk to myself?
Yeah. And that goes back to that should. Oh, I'm stupid. I should have done that. There's nothing good about that word because then we're going backwards. We're not working forwards with, we're working backwards. So yeah, great question. And so here's, a couple of ways to think about this. And again, little differences catch our brain very differently. So one thing you might try, Jan, and I'd love to know if you do this, how it works. Would I be correct in guessing that the alarm you have set is kind of the basic alarm that you have for other things? So it like beeps or whatever it does. Is it the same sound?
Yes.
That always?
Yes.
Aha. So here's what I want you to try, because this is a little change that makes your brain aware and looks at it differently. Because this is, again, it's classical conditioning. It's the whole Pavlov's dog thing, right? When I hear that beep, I click the button and the beep stops. Okay, great. There's a reward there. So
Yes.
I want you to go in and do you know how to change the audio or
Yes.
the sounds of the beeps?
Yes.
I want you, for your medication ones, I want you to go in as soon as we're off this call, and I want you to pick a different sound, and I want it to be a sound that is fun, that you love, that gets your attention, because what that'll do is it'll take the classical conditioning of hear the sound, click the button. And now your brain will engage and go, wait, what is that? And you'll actually pick it up and look, take your medication. And then you're not allowed to put your phone down once you pick it up to look at that with that sound. You have to carry your phone into the kitchen or wherever, the bathroom, take your meds, and then you're allowed to put your phone down. That's the new habit that you're going to have. And because we give it a different sound, it's going to kick your brain into a totally different space, and the conditioning will go away quickly, and you'll condition yourself to the new habit. And again, once you pick up your phone, you cannot put it down till you take your meds, and then you can do that.
Okay.
Give it a try and report back. Let us know.
Okay.
Let us know how that works.
Yeah, that's good. Like that.
Okay. And I actually had one more thing I was going to say. Oh, did you have something to add to that?
No, I just saw Rosemary popped up. This works too. Those little things, right? And get up every hour. Use this friend. You have a personal assistant in the palm of your hand or sitting next to you at all times. Start to put those little things in just to remind you, so you don't have to remember, and make it fun to remember, and you'll start to do it. So Rosemary, thank you for that. Absolutely. Jan, go ahead. What else you got?
I was just going to say, talking about the accountability, I have exercised, I would say 4 to 5 days a week for well over a year and a half, because I do it with Kathy. And if we 8:30 every morning, I'm like, hide my phone. Kathy's going to call. I don't even want to do it. Or she'll call and I'm busy today. That's what I was telling her all day today. I'm busy tomorrow. I've got something. I know I've got something. And other days I'm like, Kathy, are you there? And she's, I got sidetracked. But I 100% would not be doing it if we did not get on.
I would.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So
It's
that
good.
dragged by the collar,
It's really cool because you're setting up like a system, that whole we rise to the level of our systems instead of we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems, is what I'm trying to say. And you are protecting yourself. Your system is in place to work out from all those other emotional things that are coming in of I don't want to and I don't feel like it, blah, blah. Like your system's in place. And so you fall to that system. And Debbie, your system is your trainers and your PT. You fall to the level of your systems. You could literally go all, months without working out, but you've never done that because you've always had systems in place. So it's just cool to see like how systems can make such a big difference.
And Jan, I started that same way. I started moving and walking with my neighbor friends every night at 9 o'clock in the summer. And then they're the ones who convinced me that maybe I really wanted to be pushed by a trainer and I should give it a try, because I had a trip coming up and I tried it and just absolutely loved having trainers.
Yeah. So Debbie, maybe you say you do trainer twice a week, throw a third day in with your trainer.
Yeah. There was a period where I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe, a couple of the things that you've both said, and I want to just make sure that they come back to the forefront because they're great things to keep in mind, is, the weather's getting nice again, right? And so when I have a night or two that maybe I go out in the evening and walk around the neighborhood with neighbors or friends or something like that, it doesn't now register in my brain that I'm exercising, even though I'm actually socializing and enjoying some conversation with my friends. And so are there places you can, I almost hesitate to use this word, hide exercise by masking it as something else that you actually enjoy, but you're getting the exercise in while you're doing something social, for example, or something else you enjoy.
Lindsay told me to go take the grocery cart and walk through the store, but then we decided the grocery cart, I better do it in Target, not the grocery store.
That's right. That if you do it in Target, see, if I did it in Target, it would help also make my wallet lose weight if I shopped like that in Target. So, it depends on the goal.
Maybe it needs to be Menards or Lowe's or something.
Right? And all of a sudden your exercise is hidden, but you're getting it all in. You're getting it checked off. And you're probably doing more of it because you're not even thinking about that that's what it is. So, think outside the box in that way, because I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, is we label the thing as what it is. And then we go, I don't feel like doing that, which is very human. Okay, if I don't feel like doing that, do I feel like talking to my friends or catching up with my neighbor? Sure. Awesome. Let me go do that via a walk. You see this a lot more in especially once things have gone virtual so much more. I see, or team leads and stuff encouraging things like we're gonna do a standing meeting. So everybody move your chair and we're gonna still have the same meeting, but we're all gonna stand. And all of a sudden, just standing for the next 20 minutes in the meeting as opposed to sitting, my circulation is different, my oxygenation is different, my muscles are working instead of being stagnant and just sitting. The blood flow, everything has changed just because I stood up. So having a standing Zoom meeting instead of a sitting one. If you're together, right, we're going to not sit at a conference table for the next half hour. Let's go walk around the building outside because it's a nice day. And we're going to have a walking meeting. And what they find is as soon as the blood starts to flow and the oxygenation starts to hit the brain again, they have better ideas. People are more willing because there's an energy. They come up with things. They can answer problems that sitting at the table for the last month they haven't been able to come up with because the energy is just sitting there. Things are flowing. So are ideas. So are answers. So are possibilities. So every day there are things that we can do, you know, to even if you're waiting in line in a waiting room for something. Right. I was at the BMV recently because my daughter got her license. It was a few months ago, and we went to the BMV to get her driver's license. Right. And there were a whole bunch of seats, and I sat down for a little, and I was just sitting waiting for her to come back from her test and all her stuff. And I just stood up and I'm like, why am I sitting? Knowing just that little tiny difference for 10 minutes, if that's doable for you, makes a difference. And when you get in the habit of finding those opportunities, not to go and have to exercise, but to get things in that are good for your body consistently, those things add up fast. So kind of broaden the review. It's pretty cool.
I was just, let's use this opportunity to talk about habit stacking a little bit too, because I feel like the whole idea when Rosemary and I were talking about that, it was on your way home from work or when you're already out over the weekend. It's like really think through pairing of things so that it's not like you're comfy sitting at home and all of a sudden you have to take all this momentum and all this energy to get going. It is a flow that's already happening. And that can look like even the little 1-minute exercises, Robin, to your point, if we have a time where it's like you just need a mental break in the morning and you always know you're going to get up, microwave your coffee and do a 1-minute plank. Like it's got to be built somewhere into that day that feels more natural, or else we're always fighting ourselves on that as well. We're trying to like reduce the amount of energy that it takes to make that new thing happen. So
yeah, that's excellent, Lindsay, because if we reduce the energy, there's less friction. And when there's less friction, it makes it so much easier to do. It makes it more doable. And if it's more doable, we're more apt to do it. And sometimes, speaking of habit stacking or thinking about once you're in it, because the energy that it takes is usually to start it. Once we're doing things, okay, it's not a big deal now. I'm already doing it. Let me go ahead and do. And it could be, you know, I don't know, Kathy, if you walk Charlie, right? But if you take Charlie on a walk, I do this with my Lucy, right? I know I have to take her out for a walk a few times a day. And so I could take her, if I'm in a time crunch, you know, a few driveways up and come back. But if I'm not in a time crunch, I'm already walking a few why not walk to the next side street or walk around the block? I can do a little bit more every time I'm already doing something. And again, that adds up a lot too.
Yes. Charlie is my system.
it's your system.
I walk
That works.
Right.
And your stress relief, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Do you want to pick Robin's brain at all, or have you kind of settled on the evening thoughts?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just go with my evening thoughts right now and see where this leads me, but I'm feeling very, very optimistic, but just needing time to assess and see. Last night I had some like other plans as well as the rest of the day, but the good news being, I mean, I went to a movie, and normally these movies now you sit in these sponge, you know, these really nice chairs and you can have a glass of wine or a beer or something and watch the movie, right? That's been on the radar. We always have a glass of wine and we watch the movie, blah, blah. Did not have the wine last night. I thought, nope, it didn't matter if anybody else was going to have anything. I chose easily not to have that. And then when I came home, lately, I would be going, what can I eat? What can I eat? There's got to be something. I need to eat something before I go to bed, even though it was like after 10 o'clock and I'm tired. And last night I didn't do that. I just came in, I drank a glass of water, took Charlie out, and we went to bed, and I felt good. There was no battling. I've been in a big battle lately and I don't like it. So last night was my first battle-free night. Yay.
Hey, Kathy,
Yes.
I used to, I'm alone, and I used to maybe do the board alone nighttime stuff too, and I still do sometimes. But the one that Lindsay gave me that helped me, and I know you're very different, but if I'm sitting on the couch watching, I'm a TV watcher. If
Yeah.
I remove myself from that room and do it in a different room, it's a game changer for me to be whatever activity, whether I'm reading a book, don't do it on the couch near the kitchen. Watch TV upstairs instead of downstairs. It could be the computer, the phone, the TV, a book, anything. If I do it in the room near the kitchen, I maybe go wander and look. But if I'm upstairs, I don't come down to hunt for.
It's a really good idea. Really good idea. Okay.
And sleep. Get extra sleep when it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm hunting. It's like, oh, you'd maybe enjoy a little extra sleep for a change.
Okay. Yay. Good idea. Good thought.
Nice. Kathy, that's awesome. I'm proud of you. And Rosemary, you kind of, again, you spoke to that idea that Jan was talking about earlier. We talked about a little tiny shift, whether that's a shift in the environment, a shift in where something is placed, a shift in anything, a tiny one can be a game changer. Yeah.
Like
So if we're doing things the same way we've always done them, we're not going to get different results, right? What's the old quote, right? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. If you want something different, you need to do something different.
Right.
And so the first rule of I want to change something is, okay, if I want to change it, I already know I'm not going to do it the same way I've always done it, because that's not going to change things. What one little tiny thing can I change that makes it a little different? That's the game changer sometimes. So a couple of great examples of that. And in coaching, we call it a pattern interrupt, right? We're creatures of habit. And so we're in patterns and we do things and we're on autopilot. And as soon as you interrupted the pattern by making it different, it looks different, it feels different, it sounds different, whatever it is, it's in a different room, the pattern gets broken. And now you're in a place of choice, because autopilot takes choice out of the mix. Interrupting the pattern and doing it a little bit differently, that just created choice. Now you're in control, as opposed to autopilot where you're out of control.
Very good. Yes. Okay. So I was thinking, just kind of being careful of time here. Jan, did you have something, or were you just thumbs upping? You're muted. Hang on. Muted.
I was just going to add, doing something differently. It's actually kind of fun. Change things up. Like we went somewhere where there were like 12 of us, but only 2 or 3 of each had met. So I opened my big mouth and I said, okay, at the next meal, we got to sit next to, sat next to before. So, or when you sit at the table, you all have your own seats. Sit in a different seat. It might spark different conversation. You might see a different view. If you always go to the left, go to the right instead.
Yes.
It just changes things up a little.
And it engages your mind quickly, because a lot of stuff we're talking about, is about engaging our body. How do we move our body and keep our body engaged? It's only when we get off of autopilot and change something up where now we have to think about it. Now we've totally engaged our mind. And that's the big difference. I have to pay attention if I decide not to take the freeway to the same place that I always go. I'm going to take this street instead. I have to be in the moment. I have to be paying attention. I'm going to see new things I've never seen before. Now it's kind of fun. It's a little bit of an adventure. And that's what that little change does. Is you're right. It makes it fun. It makes it kind of interesting. And then we can all of a sudden engage our minds, not just our bodies.
That's so good. I'm loving this conversation. Thank you all. This is so good. And I just want to close out with everybody, since we have Robin, it'd be fun just to highlight the fact again that it is June 1st, which always feels like a fresh start, and kind of like your typical recommendations with clients. And do you use months, or do you use fresh starts to help instigate motivation, or like, do you run with this type of thinking at all?
You know, it depends, because different personalities prefer to have things structured a different way. So I don't have a steadfast rule for it. Things like the beginning of the week or beginning of the month or beginning of the quarter, there are certain times where it makes sense if somebody is a more structured person and that works for them and they want to commit within a time frame. So if that is something that works, it's a great way to keep track of things. Absolutely. And have a nice system or structure, and a place where you know you're starting, a place where you know where you're ending, and checking in, looking at what happened, what adjustments am I going to make, what am I going to keep, what am I going to toss, and now let's start it again. It gives great points to do that. For certain personalities, I don't do that for this reason. So if there's someone I'm working with who has had a lifetime of habit of going, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll start Monday, I'll start, and they're very accustomed to kind of putting it off, because Monday to them, for example, seems like a great time to start because then I have a full week and I'm starting. Those people I like to pattern interrupt and say, no, you're starting now. I don't care if it's a Wednesday evening at 4:37 p.m. This is when you're starting. And now we're going to go day by day, and we're going to set this up for you so that you're starting now whenever that is, and you're ending here. And this is where our checkpoints are going to be. So it depends. It depends. But a couple of different ways to look at it. Again, you know, find what works for you. That's the key. Because if it works for you, if it's easy for you to get, to do, if the system or the routine feels good, that's when we're going to do it. If anything feels off with those things, we're going to have to try too hard. And there's that word, right? I'm going to have to try to fit into something that might not be exactly my thing. When you've got larger groups of people, you kind of have to adhere to, here's a start date, here's an end, here are checkpoints, so that it gets everybody going in the same path. When we're working one-on-one, it's a little easier to do the other one that I explained. So yeah, they're both great approaches depending on what we're working with. Absolutely.
Such good answers. Is there any last minute, any questions from everybody who was so awesome to jump on today? Okay, so we'll keep these meetings flowing, and just so much appreciation for showing up, because it's so much more fun to have conversation around all of this versus just Robin and I preaching and teaching. So
Well, thank you both.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you.